Hi, this is Mike from BandLab. With BandLab's included instruments and effects, you can make any kind of music you like. In this video, we'll show you how to make a city pop beat with smooth chords, catchy lead lines, and enticing strings. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I start by setting the project tempo to 95 beats per minute. The first element I'm going to create is a chord progression for the song's verse. I add a new virtual instrument track and set it to keyboards, whirly. I set this track to -6 dB. City pop is heavily jazz influenced, and I'd like this instrument to have a jazzy tremolo. So I open the effects panel and add a modulation stereo tremolo effect. For my verse chord progression, I use D flat major 7, A major add 13, B major 7, and E9. The progression features smooth voice leading, with each chord flowing into the next. This creates a sense of continuity and helps establish a strong melodic and harmonic structure. Next, I'm going to add some drums. I add another instrument track and set this one to drum kits, funk. I set this track to -6 dB. I program in a drum beat with snares on the second and fourth beat, and kicks on the first and sixth eighth notes. I add closed hats on eighth notes, turning snap to grid off to add swung notes. I position these on the 8th and 16th notes. A lowered velocity of 63 is used for these notes. I then turn snap to grid back on and duplicate this pattern out for the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. Before I compose a melody, I'd like to add a bass line. I create a new virtual instrument track and set it to leads, G-funk sine. I set this track to -6 dB. I compose a bass line that, for the most part, follows along with the root notes of the chords. Now it's time to add a melody. I create a virtual instrument track and set it to synths, lo-fi saw. I set this track to -2.8 dB. I like this track to sound natural, so in the effects panel, I add a reverb, studio reverb. I set the mix to 23% and the size to 8%. This melody features a motif that plays once, then again with a variation. For the third chord, we have something that's similar, but simpler than the first motif. Then for the final chord, we have a very simple 2-note pattern. This development and contrast helps feel like the melody is telling a story. Now I want to make a pre-chorus. I duplicate the existing elements out. I keep the chords the same, but I edit the lead to a simpler melody and rhythm that signals something is about to change. I'd like to heighten the pre-chorus, so I add another virtual instrument track and set this one to strings, string orchestra. I set this track to -9.1 dB. I compose a simple string pattern that rises up to bring a sense of expectation before the chorus arrives. For the chorus, I change up the chord progression. This time I use A flat 7 sus2, A sharp minor, A sharp minor 7, and A sharp 7 sharp 5. This provides a harmonic contrast with the verse, while still retaining smooth voice leading, which helps it keep that jazzy feel. I add a bass line that follows the chords. For the chorus's melody, I use a simpler, almost naive lead line with plenty of repetition. I'd like to heighten the chorus's lead, so I add another instrument track and set this one to strings, string orchestra stack. I set this track to -6.2 dB. I duplicate the chorus lead part onto the staccato string track. I use Command+A on Mac or Control+A on Windows to select all notes in the clip, and use the +12 button to transpose them up an octave. The layered strings help to make the chorus feel appropriately big after the string-laden pre-chorus. I'd like to develop the chorus with a counter melody. I duplicate the chorus out and add a new virtual instrument track. I set this to synths, soft bells. I set this track to -3 dB. This part is very simple and is designed just to heighten the existing elements. Again, I'd like this track to have a natural feel, so I add a studio reverb, again setting the mix to 23% and the size to 8%. To create a bridge, I duplicate the drums out and create a new chord progression. This plays F minor 7 over C, A diminished 7, F minor 7 over C, and A sharp 7. For a lead line, I use the counter melody bell to play a rhythmically simple, naive melody that contrasts with the relative complexity of the other sections. Before I create an arrangement, I'd like an intro and outro section. For this, I just use the drums and chords. The chords play the first two chords of the verse repeated, D flat major 7 and A major add 13. The arrangement starts with an 8-bar intro. The 8-bar verse begins on bar 9. This is followed by the 4-bar pre-chorus. The chorus plays for 8 bars, with the counter melody coming in halfway through. The verse, pre-chorus, chorus pattern then repeats. On bar 49, we have an 8-bar bridge. We then have another chorus. This is followed by an 8-bar outro. Remember, you can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!